Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shivani Tyagi, your current affair teacher, and this is a beautiful morning to start with today's current affair. And as usual, appreciate yourself that you're here in the morning, reading current affairs, not giving up, right? So now let's
Good
start with
morning,
our
ma'am.
first. Good morning. Let's see what it says. Parliament's historic law on extended wait for women. Very, very important news. So in this news, we are going to understand that how when it comes to changes, how much time they do take, right? And that time, how much it is going to impact us, right? So what we are going to cover in this news, we are going to cover GS paper 2, polity and governance, representation, gender justice. After this, essay and ethics, substantive democracy versus empowerment versus delayed justice, right? So this will be studying that role of women, right? If we are coming up with the changes, how much time we take to implement those changes, right? So we are going to understand this with an example. Imagine that there is a school, right? And in that school, for many, many years, what was happening? Girls were not given enough chances to become class monitor or leaders, right? So then one day, the school principal finally, made a rule that from now on, 1/3 of the portion, right, the position will be given to whom? To girls, right? So everyone clapped to this, right? So girls felt happy, right? They felt empowered. But then again, the principal added one more line that this rule will only start after we rearrange all classroom and when we are going to count students again, right? So maybe it's like that many years, like after many years it will like happen. So to this, girls basically asked that we waited for so many years for this, right? Now why do you have to like still wait for this more, right? So this is the same situation that has happened with the women representative law that has been like passed by the Parliament of India. Now what this law talks about, so this basically tells that 30%, right, 30% reservation for women in Lok Sabha state assemblies, right? So this law is known as Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, right? So what basically it talks about, it is basically known as 106 constitutional amendment, right? But the problem is that the law will be implemented only after the next census, right, and after delimitation, right? So both of these will are going to take time, right? And this law that has been like passed is not something new, is not about 2026. So we are going to understand that how it was started way before, and now implementation is going to take more time, right? So now to this, what women are saying, what society is saying, what constitution is saying, and what UPSC will ask from it, right? So what we are reading, that women will not get reservation immediately, right? So this is about timeline that we'll be understanding कि एक चीज को पास करने में कितना ज्यादा टाइम लगा, right? और अभी भी there is no guarantee that if like in coming future it will be fulfilled or not, right? So this is what we are going to understand. So what this news is talking about, so this news is basically saying that you are giving us hope today, right? But then you are postponing real benefits for many years, right? So to this, what those critics are saying, that women have already waited more than like 25 or 30 years, right? Up now, what you are saying, that now we have to wait for like 10 more years. So it's like we are going to wait for 40 or 45 years to bring this change in the society, right? So now you're going to link it with like delimitation also, right? So political parties will like use this as a symbolic move, right? Just to gain vote, they are going to use it, right? This is not the real change that can be like brought in the society, right? We will not implement it immediately, then there will be no effective consideration that we can come up with, right? So what exactly is this? Is not just about women reservations, right? It is about democracy and it is about representation, right? Now let's understand that who get to make laws, whose voice is heard in parliament. Right now women's representation in Lok Sabha is still low, right? Around 15% it is, right? How much? 15%. और बात कितनी हो रही है? 33%, right? Now why this law is important, right? And how this delay is going to affect us, right? How it reduces its impact, that we are going to discuss, right? Acha, what this is law? This law is basically passed by Parliament in 2023, right? जिसका नाम है Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, right? So Adhiniyam. So what it talks about? It is the 106 Constitutional Amendment Act 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? Now, why we are talking about it? 2023, right? So basically what it does, it gives 33 reservations, 1/3 seat to women in Lok Sabha, right, or state candidates, right? But when will it start? This is the most important issue that we are discussing in this. Kab shuru hoga ye? So the law clearly says that reservation will only and only start after two-step completion will be there, right? So first step is what? National census. जब तक नेशनल सेंसस नहीं हो जाता है, ठीक है, तब तक ये लॉ पास नहीं होगा, राइट? एंड व्हेन दिस नेशनल सेंसस इज टू बी एक्सपेक्टेड, दिस इज एक्सपेक्टेड टू बी हैपन इन 2027, 2027 में जाकर ये कभी होगा, राइट? एंड आफ्टर दिस द सेकंड स्टेप इज डिलिमिटेशन. This is the second step that we have, right? So this is a commission under 82 of the constitution, right? So whatever changes we are going to see, right, whatever the numbers population numbers, right, we are going to see, that will be basically implemented in here, right? So even in the best possible case, we like understand this census is going to happen in 2027, right? Uske baad mein data verification will be there, publication will be there, so it's like taking 1 to 2 years in this, राइट? डेलिमिनेशन एक्सरसाइज जो है ये समझ लो सेकंड स्टेप वाला 2 से 3 साल ये ले लेगा, 2 to 3 years this will take, right? So now real benefit of this, right, it will come like after 10 years. Already मैंने जैसे बताया कि हम लोग जो है इसके बारे में 30 साल से बात कर रहे हैं. Now 10 years we are going to take, so it's like 40 से 45 years we are going to take to implement this. Is this making sense? No, right? So this is the issue that this news is talking about. We have, we know that what the problem is, right? But now you are saying that we'll solve this problem like after many years. Is it making sense? No, right? Now we are going to understand history, that exactly from where it all started, right? Since when we are talking about this, right? So this idea of giving reservation to women in parliament, state assembly is not new at all, right? So it's a very old demand, and women in India have been like waiting for like almost 30 years for this, right? अब ये जो स्ट्रगल हमारे पास में चल रहा है, ये स्ट्रगल बहुत टाइम से चल रहा है, ठीक है? जो सबसे पहली बात हमारे पास में आई थी, दैट केम इन 1996, राइट? कब आई हमारे पास में ये स्टोरी? हमारे पास में ये स्टोरी आई 1996 में, ठीक है? सबसे पहले हमारे पे यहाँ पर बात हुई, राइट? तो गवर्नमेंट फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम ब्रॉट अ बिल टू गिव 33% रिजर्वेशन टू women, राइट? कि उनके लिए 33% रखी जाएगी, राइट? So लोकसभा, state legislative assemblies, right, they basically understood this. So this was a big and historic step towards this change, right? But what happened? Because of lots and lots of oppositions, criticism, ठीक है, इस बिल को वापस से क्या कर दिया गया? होल्ड पर डाल दिया गया, right? Now because of this, right, discriminate होने के बाद की वजह से this bill could not be passed, right? So after some time what happened? The Lok Sabha dissolved the bill, ठीक है? तो यहाँ पर क्या हो गया हमारा? ये बिल, this bill basically got dissolved, right? And the bill basically lapsed. It means what? It automatically ended. तो कब हुआ ये? This happened in 1996. So this was what? This was the first step that we have seen, regarding this bill, ठीक है? अब इसके बाद में 1996 के बाद में क्या हुआ? वापस से वही बिल का मुद्दा दोबारा उठाया गया, right? After 1996, after repeated failures, we can say, the bill was introduced again and again in different times, right? And basically this was fighting and protest inside parliament, right? So some MPs demanded separate quotas for OBCs also, जो कि one of the criticism है that will be reading, अभी जो अब हम criticism पढ़ेंगे इस बिल के बारे में, उसमें सबसे बड़ा criticism है that you are not including OBC in here. SC भी इंक्लूड कर रहे हो, ST भी इंक्लूड कर रहे हो, जनरल भी इंक्लूड कर रहे हो, but you are not including this category, right? So यही problem हमारी 1996 के बाद में आई थी, right? So some political parties feared losing their seats also, right? Because of this conflict, right, the bill never ever got passed, right? हर बार ये जो बिल था ये वापस से क्या हो गया? It lapsed again, वापस से ये end हो गया, right? So the same situation happened again, right? Now after this हमारे पास आया step 3, that is 2010. 2010 में क्या हुआ? 2010 में something very we can say remarkable, something very important, something very changeable happened, right? So women, basically this bill was passed in Rajya Sabha, इतने सारी चीजें होने के बाद में, राइट, फाइनली इट वाज लाइक पास्ड, राइट, पीपल स्टार्टेड एक्सेप्टिंग, पीपल स्टार्टेड रिकॉग्नाइजिंग इट, राइट. सो नाउ what happened, it got passed in Rajya Sabha, right, and this was a huge achievement that we have seen, right, but for a law to complete it must like pass in both houses. पता है हम सबको कि चलो राज्य सभा में तो पास हो चुका है, लेकिन यहाँ पर प्रॉब्लम ये आई कि लोकसभा में ये पास नहीं हुआ, right. So what was the problem? This bill was not passed in Lok Sabha, ठीक है, दोनों ही हाउसेस में पास होना चाहिए, लेकिन लोकसभा में पास नहीं हुआ, right, because it was not passed in Lok Sabha, right. फिर उसके बाद से वापस वही प्रॉब्लम, this bill lapsed again, वापस से एंड हो गया ये, ठीक है. अब इसके बाद में 2023 की बात करें तो फाइनली स्टेप 4 वी हैव, यहां पर क्या हुआ, दिस बिल पास्ड, फाइनली इस बिल को पास किया गया, right. The Parliament of India passed a law that is called Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, right. So this law provides what, 33% of reservation for women, right, in Lok Sabha, in state assemblies. For almost 30 years of waiting, finally this bill became what, this bill became law, ठीक है. So this is the story that we have. Okay, क्या क्या changes we are going to see, what are the changes that we are going to see. So पहला तो reservation in Lok Sabha, ठीक है, जैसे कि मैंने बताया कितना रहेगा इसका 33%, right. Reservation inside SC ST seats also, right. So it means 1/3 of SC ST, right, these categories will be included in here, right. Reserve seats will be changed after every delimitation, right. So it means rotation of reserved constituencies will be there, right. Duration of reservation की बात करें तो this reservation will be there for like almost 15 years, right. और उसके बाद में extend भी हो सकती है अगर हमारी गवर्नमेंट चाहे तो, राइट. 15 साल के बाद में फ्यूचर में एक्सटेंड भी हो सकती है अगर चाहते हैं, राइट. फिर उसके बाद में हम इतनी बार डेलिमिटेशन पढ़ रहे हैं, डेलिमिटेशन है क्या, राइट. सो डेलिमिटेशन का मतलब है रीड्रॉइंग आवर बाउंड्रीज, ठीक है. कौन सी बाउंड्रीज की हम रीड्रॉ करने की बात कर रहे हैं. सो द चेंजेस दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट है, राइट, क्योंकि जो हमारी पॉपुलेशन जो है वो चेंज होती रहती है, राइट. तो डेलिमिटेशन जो है वो इंश्योर करती है कि हर एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी, राइट, हर एक के पास में इक्वल पॉपुलेशन हो, राइट. एवरी वोट शुड हैव लाइक इक्वल वैल्यू, fair representation and democracy should be there, right. So this is why census की बात हो रही है, this is why we are talking about delimitations also, right. Now by whom this delimitation is done, this is done by our independent body, Delimitation Commission of India, right. So this body works using census data, right, population data, right. So this is why what was first step that basically government brought कि पहले हम लोग करेंगे census, फिर उसके बाद में this delimitation will be done, ठीक है. अब criticism क्या है. So the first criticism that we are facing is delayed implementation, right. So what people are saying that law today benefit after many years, right. Women have like already waited for like 30 years, 30 साल से वो already wait कर रही है, now they may have to like wait for like another 8 to 10 years. So people are saying, these critics are saying that this is not immediate justice, right. This is nothing but this is what, this is delayed justice. क्या है, दिस इज डिलेड जस्टिस, राइट. हमारी प्रॉब्लम आज की है, राइट. दिस इज द प्रॉब्लम दैट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट टुडे, तो इमीडिएटली सॉल्व होना चाहिए, राइट. देन वन मोर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग दैट बेसिकली क्रिटिक्स आर सेइंग कि दिस इज नथिंग बट सिंबॉलिक पॉलिटिक्स. What is symbolic politics? That this is a technique that basically present government is using only and only to do what, to gain the votes, right. So opposition parties and some people are arguing that this law was passed just before election, right. So implemented नहीं होने वाला ये immediately, ये सिर्फ हुआ है as a symbolic political move, right, just to gain support for women, ठीक है. This is what government, the opposition is saying, right. Now if we understand this, delimitation itself is a very sensitive issue in India. Why? Because population growth is different in different regions, right. North में अलग होगी, south में अलग होगी, right. The population growth is totally different, right. North में जो है increase है population, right, जहाँ जल्दी increase होती है. South India की बात करें तो population growth is controlled over there, right. And after delimitation, North state may get more seats, right. और South state की अगर हम बात करते हैं, they may lose relative political power, right. So what these critics are saying that linking women reservation with delimitation makes the issue political, कॉम्प्लिकेटेड एंड कंट्रोवर्शियल, ठीक है। आप जो है पॉपुलेशन के बेसिस पे अगर बात कर रहे हैं तो नॉर्थ के साइड में जो है पॉपुलेशन फास्टली ग्रो होती है, बट व्हेन इट कम्स टू साउथ, राइट, वहां पे पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल में रहती है। अगर आप इस बेसिस पर, पॉपुलेशन के बेसिस पर अगर आप अपनी सीट दोगे तो नॉर्थ को हमेशा ज्यादा सीट्स मिलेगी एज कंपेयर टू द साउथ, right? So this is the critics that basically are saying, and they are saying this is nothing but unfair move. क्यों? क्योंकि यहाँ पे साउथ को जो है नहीं सीट्स मिलने वाली है। आई होप दिस इज अंडरस्टूड। अनदर वन इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग, जैसे कि मैंने यहाँ पर अभी आपको बताया कि इन 1996 देयर वाज अ इश्यू रेज ऑफ ओबीसी, ठीक है, एक ओबीसी का इश्यू रेज हुआ था, राइट। सो व्हाट दे वर सेइंग दैट यू आर नॉट इंक्लूडिंग दिस सेक्टर, right? There should be like separate quota for OBC also, OBC women also, right? But the law is giving reservation for whom? They are giving for women general category, they are giving SC and ST, but they are not including OBCs, right? So this law does not include OBC women properly, right? उसके साथ में there is a problem of rotation also, rotation problem चल रही है। Now what is the rotation problem? So the problem is the law seats will like change after every delimitation, right? So iski wajah se there will be like lots of problems, right? MPs may not build long-term connections with people, right? Long-term development planning will not be there, right? Political instability in the constituency will be there, right? So this is the rotation problem that we are going to face again and again, right? Now these are the criticism that we have seen. Now I will see the favor, right? The good part of this news, they also exist, ठीक है। क्या है? सबसे पहले तो this is the first time in India that finally we have recognized women, right? We are recognizing this reservation for women, right? So it has been like improved, right? So this is a big step towards gender equality, right? Because whenever a law passes in parliament, right, when it passes at such big stage, तो जो हमारी ground reality है that also changes, right? छोटे तत्व लोग से लेके हम लोग बड़े की अगर बात करते हैं तो पीपल बेसिकली स्टार्ट थिंकिंग मोर टुवर्ड्स विमेन, राइट। फिर उसके बाद में अगर हम बात करते हैं इट इंप्रूव्स रिप्रेजेंटेशन आल्सो, ठीक है। सो गिविंग 1/3, रिजर्विंग 1/3 फॉर विमेन, राइट, इट्स अ बिग थिंग, right? Now laws will become more inclusive and sensitive, right? For example, issues when MPs, women MPs will make differences, right? Women's safety will be considered, right? Maternal health will be there, education will be there, nutrition will be there, basically, gender justice will be there. So these things will be also considered if we'll be including women also in this part, right? And there is, success of local government model as well. What is success of local government model? So it means that India already has like reservation for women in local bodies, right? 73rd constitutional amendment की बात करें, 74th constitutional amendment की बात करें, right? So because of this lakhs of women being leaders in panchayat, ठीक है, तो research यहाँ पर दिखा रही है कि improvement है, right? In drinking water also, sanitation also, school attendees also, right? Local welfare maybe, right? So what people are believing that this same positive impact can like happen at state and national level also, and this will be considered a big example for the society also, ठीक है। क्योंकि अगर हम लोग यहाँ पर रिजर्वेशन रखेंगे, so there will be like more women, right? And if there will be like more women, so the issues can be like raised properly, ठीक है। I hope this is understood. Now let's come to the another news. India's leap from back office to global brain trust. Okay, another very important news. So क्या बात हो रही है यहाँ पर? Let's consider this with one more example. So, okay. So India was like known as the back office of the world. Okay. So क्या हो रहा था? India was like known as the back office of the world, right? Now what does this mean? This means that India mainly did data entry या फिर customer care या फिर call center में काम किया, right? So India was basically doing all these things only. Right? So India was basically doing these things only, right? So या तो वो IT में काम करते थे, IT सर्विसेज में काम करते थे, डेटा एंट्री हो जाते थे, कॉल सेंटर्स हो जाते थे, right? So foreign companies used India for like cheap labor, right? किस चीज के लिए consider किया जाता था? Only for the basic IT services, only like a cheap labor and support work only, right? सिर्फ इतना ही role हमारा रहता था, right? But now there is this turning point that happened. The idea began investing in education, in digital infrastructure, in research, in innovation, right? So finally, after this, we saw this change, right? Young Indians basically started doing high level works, right? Like artificial intelligence is there, right? We have data science, global consulting, advanced research, right? Policy thinking, right? All of these things were basically started happening, right? तो यहाँ से यहाँ तक का सफर was not easy, right? We are going to understand about the history also कि कहाँ से changes हुए थे, right? So now the world is not just taking service from India, right? It is taking ideas also from India, right? So India means what? It is a global brain trust that we are talking about, right? We have knowledge, we have ideas, we have solutions for the world, right? So this is what news is about, that how finally we are, changing ourselves, right? So we are going to understand that how this change happened, right? How basically, 1991 liberalization took place, and how we, adapted those changes, how we are also not adapted, we are moving forward also, and how they are going to impact us in good way as well, right? अच्छा, बात कर लेते हैं कि exactly ये जर्नी कहाँ से शुरू हुई थी. तो अगर हम बात करें इस जर्नी की, so मैंने पहले भी बताया हुआ है कि क्या हुआ था 1991 से पहले हम लोग कैसे रहते थे. Before 1991 we were only adapting, right? हम ओल्ड इंडियन इकोनॉमी की अगर बात करते हैं, so we were nothing but we were using someone else's resources, right? So we were basically, closed and controlled economy, right? And this was known as license raj. What is license raj? License raj is when you have to ask the government, for permission, right? Again and again. अगर आप कुछ खोलना चाहते हैं, if you want to, build some industry, if you want to start any business, so what you have to do? You have to ask government for like many permissions, right? So government controlled, government basically, advised, right? Production may, prices may, imports may, exports may, right? So because of this, what happened? When it comes to private, they had very little to say, right? बहुत कम सुना जाता था, right? तो यहाँ पर किसका कंट्रोल था? The control was only public, right? State का कंट्रोल था यहाँ पर, right? So this is 1991 we are talking about, before 1991, right? So problems क्या थी इस चीज में? प्रॉब्लम ये थी because of too much control, private companies could not, grow freely, right? Foreign companies जो थी, they could not come to India, right? ना investment हो रही है because of so many like red tapeism, right? So because of so many problems, हमारी जो बाकी countries थी, वो basically यहाँ पर, setup नहीं हो पा रही थी. कोई हमारा global competitive नहीं था. There was like no competition, right? So India was not strong in technology. No strong services were there, right? So India's economy was becoming what? It was becoming slow and it was becoming restricted. Right? So this is the story that we are talking about 1991, right? I hope 1991 का situation समझ आ गई होगी. Okay, so this is what, ma'am, this is phase 1 we are talking about, right? अब उसके बाद में we had changes. The changes were seen where? The changes were seen is phase 2, right? So phase 2 में क्या changes आए? So phase 2 में हमारे पास में आया economic reform. We are talking about liberalization here. ठीक है? What happened in 1991? India faced a serious economic crisis. ठीक है? मतलब बहुत ही कम foreign exchange था और क्या था हमारे पास में? High debt was there, right? So because of this, we had, faced many problems, right? So at that, our Prime Minister PV Narasimha Rao, right, and our Finance Minister Manmohan Singh, they introduced major economic reform that was known as LPG reforms. Right? Liberalization, politicization, and basically globalization. Right? Liberalization की बात करें तो it means that we are going to remove government restrictions. अगर हम privatization की बात करें तो giving more role to the private sectors. Globalization की बात करें तो it means that we are going to represent India. We are going to connect India with what? With the world economy. Right? Privatizations, liberalizations means that we are giving more, space to private companies as well, right? So what exactly happened 1991? These reforms completely changed India's economy, right? Foreign companies entered India, right? So this is why big global companies started investing in India, right? So what happened because of this? Our IT sector started growing. ठीक है, हमारा जो IT sector, पहले हम लोग क्या करते थे? We were just working for different companies, right? Now we started growing our industries, we started growing our companies, right? और इसकी वजह से our basically economic growth was seen, ठीक है? Not only that, private education was also increased because of this, right? Schools were there, infrastructure were there, resources were there, right? Engineering colleges were there, right? So now we do not have to travel abroad for the studies, right? Export and services include, India started earning from software services, हमारी consulting से, business process, right? So this created the base for India to become what? Become a service economy. So these were the phase 1 and phase 2 we faced, right? Acha. There is one more thing. There is, rise of IT and outsourcing. ठीक है? That happened when this happened in 1995 and 2000. ठीक है? तो यहाँ पर जो हमारा IT sector था, from here we saw IT sector, at a like boom, right? After 1991 reforms, India entered into the IT revolution phase. Between this phase, 1995 to 2010, India became known as the black office of the world. Now, why other companies, why basically international companies were choosing us? तो सबसे पहला तो ये है कि हमारी पॉपुलेशन बहुत ज्यादा है, राइट? सो मतलब लेबर जो है, हमारी लेबर फोर्स जो है वो हमारी बहुत ज्यादा लोग है, मतलब एज कंपेयर टू यूएस एंड यूरोप हमारे यहाँ पे इजीली लेबर प्रोवाइड की जा सकती है, राइट? उसके बाद में वी हैव सो मेनी पॉपुलेशन दैट हैव लाइक गुड स्पीकिंग स्किल्स, इंग्लिश अच्छी बोलते हैं, राइट? उसके साथ में सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर जो कंसीडर किया जाता है दैट इज टाइम जोन एडवांटेज, राइट? टाइम जोन एडवांटेज का क्या है? व्हेन यूएस इज स्लीपिंग, राइट, इंडिया इज वर्किंग फॉर यूएस, राइट? सो दिस वाज कंसीडर्ड टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है? तो यही जो चीजें थी पॉजिटिव मानी गई थी, एंड दीज वर द रीजंस दैट वी बेसिकली दोस कंपनीज स्टार्टेड इन्वेस्टिंग इन अस, ठीक है? अब अगर हम बात करते हैं आईटी कंपनीज की, राइट, तो some companies became global giants, right? Infosys is there, Tata Consulting is there, right? And Wipro is there, right? So these companies basically started growing, और जैसे ही ये companies grow होने लगी, right, हमारी economic growth was also seen as like in a booming stage, right? So now we'll understand that what kind of work India do, right? So India handled data processing, right? India handled call centers also, right? उसके साथ साथ में सॉफ्टवेयर मेंटेनेंस भी होने लगा, बैक एंड ऑपरेशंस भी हैंडल होने लगे, बीपीओ बिजनेस प्रोसेस आउटसोर्सिंग वाज आल्सो डन, राइट? बट देयर वाज वन लिमिटेशन, राइट? तो सारी की सारी ठीक है, वी वर लाइक डेवलपिंग, एंड नाउ वी वर नॉट ओनली कंसीडर्ड एज लाइक रिसोर्सेज, हम लोग भी अपना सेक्टर इंप्लीमेंट कर रहे थे, बट वहां पे देयर वाज लाइक लिमिटेशंस, राइट? इवन दो इंडिया बिकेम सक्सेसफुल, राइट, but most work was cost based work. It means that work was done because it was cheap, right? It means what? Kyunki we were considered cheap, labor affair, like this is one of the reason the companies started investing, right? So this is why, this is the first reason हम लोग बात करते हैं कि companies क्यों यहाँ पे सेटअप हो रही थी, right? इसलिए नहीं हो रही थी क्यों क्यों हम लोग इनोवेशन में या फिर हम लोग आइडियाज में लीड कर रहे थे, नहीं, हम लोग बेसिकली इसलिए ग्रो कर रहे थे बिकॉज वी वर cheap, right? So this is the major problem that we had, ठीक है? अब उसके बाद में अगर बात करते हैं India's journey, like from a closed economy to this global IT power, this started with 1991 reforms, right? So it grew like outsourcing and IT services also, but initially it was based on what? It was based on low cost advantage, ठीक है? कि हम लोग जो फोकस करेंगे चीप रिसोर्सेज पर, चीप लेबर पर फोकस करने वाले हैं, राइट? एंड वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू फोकस ऑन इनोवेटिव आइडियाज, राइट? नाउ okay, after this we are going to understand the one important concept, that is okay, so now we are going to understand one important concept, that is GCC, that is global capability centers, right? Global capability centers की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो these are also known as global in-house centers. So these are the units that are set up by multinational corporations, ताकि वो high value को like functions कर सके, like R&D is there, right? AI is there, analytics is there, right? So these are like owned by the parent companies, right? Strategic centers हैं ये हमारे, right? So these also played a very important role in our development, ठीक है? अगर हम इनकी बात करते हैं तो they also played very important role, right? उसके बाद में we have DPI, right? What is DPI? DPI is Digital Public Infrastructure, right? ये हमारा इंडिया का साइलेंट रेवोल्यूशन था, that was seen, right? So India created world class digital system. Aadhaar is there, है ना? हमारे पास में UPI है आज के टाइम पे, CoWIN is there, right? So because of this, we became more developed countries, right? So now countries in like Africa, Southeast Asia या फिर Middle East के बात करें तो they are also studying India's model, right? So this knowledge is what? This knowledge is basically export. right? So somewhere where we were like considered as cheap labor only, finally we were seen as, you know, more grown countries and more developed countries. So we were not only known for like our cheap labors या फिर resources के लिए, we were like considered, you know, innovation and ideas also, right? अगर हम इंडिया के स्टार्टअप की बात करें तो इंडिया इज now like third largest setup ecosystem in the world, right? तो हमारे मेजर हब्स जो है, you know, बेंगलुरु में है, हैदराबाद में है, चेन्नई में है, राइट? एंड उसके साथ साथ में गुड़गांव में है, राइट? सो कंपनीज लाइक फ्लिपकार्ट, जोमेटो, राइट? हमारे जो बायजूस है, दे हैव लाइक ग्लोबल एम्बिशन, राइट? स्टार्टअप वर्किंग कंपनीज आर दे आर वर्किंग इन एआई, डीप टेक, राइट? क्लाइमेट टेक पे काम कर रहे हैं, फाइन टेक एंड टेक पे भी आर वर्किंग ऑन. सो इट्स लाइक दैट वी आर ग्रोइंग अगेन एंड अगेन, राइट? तो अगर हम बात करते हैं, यू नो, दोज इंडियंस हु आर लाइक लिविंग live and, you know, work in like other countries, they are known as Indian diaspora, right? So these people play a very important role. पहला रोल तो ये प्ले करते हैं कि वो, you know, basically इन्वेस्ट करते हैं हमारी कंपनीज में, राइट? बट इसका एक क्रिटिसिज्म भी है, इसका एक लैग भी है कि हमारे जो रिसोर्सेज आर रिसोर्सेज आर बेसिकली ट्रैवलिंग फ्रॉम हियर टू देयर, राइट? सो दिस इज समवेयर वी आर लैकिंग विद इट, राइट? तो हर चीज के पॉजिटिव इफेक्ट भी होता है, वी हैव लाइक नेगेटिव इफेक्ट आल्सो, राइट? सो दिस इज हाउ दिस डायस्पोरा वर्क्स, राइट? नाउ व्हाट दे डू फॉर अस, व्हाट दे डू फॉर इंडिया. So these global Indians, right, these people who are living abroad and they are going to invest in here, right? They are going to influence global technology decisions. हमारे startups में invest करेंगे, links between करेंगे India and, you know, other countries also, right? Foreign companies के साथ में, right? They'll bring new ideas, they'll bring new innovations, right? उसके बाद में वो लोग invest करना शुरू करेंगे, right? तो इसीलिए these people, right, living abroad, right, who are going to invest in our countries, who are going to help us lead, right, are considered to be very important. ठीक है? Weakness इनकी यही है क्योंकि, you know, we are like basically sending our resources over there, right? So India is seen as what it is seen as like forward in many areas. Scientific research papers में we are seeing, patent filings में we are like seeing the success, right? And we have like success in space mission by ISRO also. So it's like we are growing. यहाँ से यहाँ तक का सफर was there, right? But then again challenges were there, and when it comes to development we still have to grow, ठीक है? But then same thing happens when it comes to, you know, changes. We are going to take more and more changes. We are going to design more AI systems, right? We are going to create more digital governance models, ठीक है? जैसे कि हमने अभी आधार और यूपीआई किया, but there are like lots and lots of development that is like need to happen, right? So India is becoming, no doubt, a knowledge power, we can say, and this knowledge power is like exported, right? दिख रही है कि वो export हो रही है. Innovation hubs are there. Strategic technology partners are there, right? So this is big global shift that we are seeing, right? So today there is technology rivalry between US and China also, okay? So this is also a good thing कि finally now when all the countries were like dependent on China, now we are not seeing it as like that, right? तो ये भी हमारे लिए एक positive aspect है. क्यों? क्योंकि, you know, countries want to expand their relations. They do not want to depend on like one country only. वो सिर्फ China पे depend नहीं रहना चाहते. They want to, you know, expand. So ये expansion जो है हमारी country पर भी आ रहा है. So now people wants to, you know, build links with us. The countries wants to build links with us, ठीक है? Now let's come to another news. Protecting the freedom of speech of MPs, another very important news that you have to cover. Okay. अगर हम इस न्यूज की बात करते हैं, so what we are talking about, let's understand this with an example. Imagine that there is a big classroom, right? And this classroom is known as Parliament, right? And this Parliament, we have like MPs, right? Member of Parliament are there, right? They are like students who can speak on behalf of like millions of people, on behalf of school, right? Now imagine the situation that some MPs basically speak strongly inside the Parliament, right? So they criticize the government, they question the policies, right? And they expose issues as well, right? But later, what happens? Some people basically try to file case against them outside Parliament, right? For what they have like said, right? So this creates a big issue, right? That should MPs be punished outside Parliament for what they say inside Parliament, right? So this is why we are going to look at the Indian Constitution. कि Indian Constitution के regarding क्या बोलता है, right? क्यों? Because in Parliament, MPs can say whatever they want, right? So there is like no stopping, right? Why? Because they are exposing, because they are presenting, because they are criticizing the oppositions, right? So this is why Parliament अगर वो कुछ बोलते हैं, right? So that is considered as like freedom. But when, you know, those people go outside, उन पर या तो केस डाल दिया जाता है या फिर उन्हें डिफेम किया जाता है on behalf of this, right? So we are going to understand inside Parliament and outside Parliament how our Constitution is basically seeing this situation. ठीक है? So what our Constitution says that MPs have freedom of speech inside Parliament, right? So they cannot be taken to court for what they say or like how they vote inside the house, right? So this protection is known as parliamentary privilege. ठीक है, क्या बोलते हैं इसको? पार्लियामेंट्री प्रिविलेज बोलते हैं. ठीक है, यहाँ पर क्या होता है, यहाँ पर क्या होता है, वी आर बेसिकली टॉकिंग अबाउट कि कैसे एमपीज को फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच इज देयर, एंड इट्स वेरी ऑब्वियस आल्सो. इफ विल दे विल बेसिकली स्पीक बाय मेंटेनिंग डिग्निटी और बेसिकली अपना ये देखकर कि किसी को हर्ट ना हो, तो वो प्रॉपर प्रेजेंट नहीं कर पाएंगे. सो दिस इज व्हाई इट इज कंसीडर्ड कि हम लोग जो है फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच इनसाइड पार्लियामेंट विल कीप इट, राइट? सो दे कैन नॉट बी टेकन कोर्ट फॉर व्हाट दे से और हाउ दे वोट इनसाइड द हाउस, राइट? तो इस प्रोटेक्शन को क्या बोलते हैं? हम इस प्रोटेक्शन को बोलते हैं पार्लियामेंट्री प्रिविलेज, राइट? Yes, they sometimes use a very harsh or controversial language also, right? So what people are saying, what critics are saying, that if MPs are not protected, right, they will become afraid to speak the truth. ठीक है, अगर आप उन पे कोर्ट के केसेस डालते रहोगे तो अपोज कैसे करेंगे, क्रिटिसाइज कैसे करेंगे अगर कोई पॉलिसीज आ रही है, राइट? ऑपोजिशन इज देयर ओनली टू क्वेश्चन, बट अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस न्यूज, व्हाट बेसिकली दिस आर्टिकल, व्हाट दिस न्यूज इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, कि हाँ बोलना तो चाहिए, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच शुड बी देयर, बट बाय मेंटेनिंग डिग्निटी, right? If MPs, basically this question arises that if MPs cannot speak freely, then voice of the people will be silenced, right? अब एक बार बात कर लेते हैं कि हिस्टोरिकली ये चीज कहां से चलती आ रही है, why we are talking about this and what basically constitution talks about. ये constitution के बेसिस पे कहां से ये कहानी चल रही है, right? So this concept, this parliamentary privilege, right, ये हमारे पास में आता है ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट से. ठीक है, ये हमारे पास में आता है ब्रिटिश पार्लियामेंट से, राइट? So we are talking about 1689 Bill of Rights, right? इंग्लैंड की बात कर रहे हैं. So this Bill of Rights 1689 इसने डिक्लेयर किया था freedom of speech, right? And debates in Parliament shall not be impeached or they can be not questioned in any court, right? So this was very much necessary उस टाइम पर. क्यों necessary था? Because there was presence of king, right? And what was king doing? King was punishing MPs. ठीक है, अगर एमपीज उन्हें क्रिटिसाइज करते थे, उनके कुछ अगेंस्ट में बोल देते थे, सो दिस इज व्हाई एमपीज वर पनिश्ड बिकॉज़ ऑफ दिस, राइट? सो वहां पर उनके पास फिर फ्रीडम नहीं होती थी. दूसरा, वो प्रॉपर्ली अपोज नहीं कर पाते थे, राइट? सो एमपीज की तो जॉब ही है दैट दे हैव टू अपोज, दे हैव टू क्रिटिसाइज, दे हैव टू टेल द किंग दैट व्हाट रॉन्ग इज लाइक हैपनिंग इन द सोसाइटी. बट उन्हीं की वॉइस अगर सप्रेस कर दी जाएगी, सो दिस इज व्हाई दिस बेसिकली बिल केम, राइट? सो इफ वी टॉक अबाउट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रोविजन इन इंडिया, आर्टिकल 105 की अगर हम बात करते हैं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के, तो ये क्या बात करता है? दिस बेसिकली टेल्स अस फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच एमपीज इन पार्लियामेंट, राइट? इम्यूनिटी फ्रॉम लाइक लीगल प्रोसीडिंग, अदर प्रिविलेज, राइट? सो मतलब जो भी हमारे पास में एमपीज बोलेंगे पार्लियामेंट में, राइट, दैट विल नॉट बी कंसीडर्ड एज एन एक्ट लाइक अगेंस्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, राइट? फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की बात हो रही है यहाँ पे, राइट? तो इसके साथ साथ में देयर आर टू मोर, दैट इज 194. ठीक है, आर्टिकल 194 की बात करें तो दिस इज स्टेट लेजिस्लेटिव, राइट? मतलब सेम ही प्रिविलेज जो है हमारे एमएलएस को भी दी गई है और सेम ही हमारे पास एमएलसीज को भी दी गई है, राइट? आर्टिकल 121 की अगर हम बात करते हैं तो वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट रिस्ट्रिक्शंस ऑफ है. ठीक है, रिस्ट्रिक्शन का मतलब ये है कि पार्लियामेंट जो है कैन नॉट डिस्कस कंडक्ट ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट जज या फिर हाई कोर्ट जज का, राइट? अगर कोई इम्पीचमेंट मोशन नहीं होता, इन दोस केसेस वी कैन थिंक, बट उसके अलावा वी कैन नॉट थिंक ऑफ इट, राइट? सो दिस प्रोटेक्ट्स आर जुडिशियल इंडिपेंडेंस, राइट? So it is why these two articles, right, are considered to be very important, right? अब फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच फॉर एमपीज की हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं, बट ये फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच ऑफ एमपीज है क्या, राइट? सो व्हाट दिस टॉक्स अबाउट दैट एमपीज कैन स्पीक फ्रीली इनसाइड पार्लियामेंट, राइट? दे कैन नॉट बी लाइक स्यूड फॉर डिफेमेशन. ये नहीं है कि उन्होंने बेसिकली अंदर अपोज कर दिया, क्रिटिसाइज कर दिया और बाहर जाकर बेसिकली ऑपोजिशन पार्टी ने उन पर बेसिकली केस लगा दिया, राइट? सो दिस इज व्हाई दिस आर्टिकल इज देयर, राइट? Even if the speech is harsh या फिर वो controversial भी है, this is different from citizens freedom under article 19(1)(a). ठीक है? अच्छा, अगर हम लोग इतनी पावर दे ही रहे हैं एमपीज को, is this power absolute? मतलब there is no loophole, there is no way that we can punish MPs, क्योंकि if they are giving so much of power to anyone, ठीक है, किसी भी चीज का एक्सेस होना, right, it is considered to be wrong, right? So the question arises that is MPs power like, is MPs freedom absolute, right? So the answer is no. Although MPs enjoy immunity from courts, right? So their speech is subject to rules of procedures, right? And not only that, their basically speech is controlled by chairman and speaker also, right? So it's like they can be questioned also, they can be silenced also, अगर वो बहुत ज्यादा controversial या फिर harsh statement दे रहे हैं, राइट. देन आर्टिकल लोकसभा रूल 380 की अगर हम बात करें, राज्यसभा रूल 261 की अगर हम बात करें, तो स्पीकर एंड चेयरमैन कैन लाइक एक्सपंज वर्ड इफ दे आर लाइक डिफेमेटरी, या फिर दे आर कंसीडर्ड एज इनडेसेंट, राइट, या फिर अनपार्लियामेंट्री, ठीक है, या फिर अनडिग्निफाइड होते हैं तो, राइट. बट द क्वेश्चन अराइजेस, बट द डिबेट अराइजेस, if entire basically paragraphs are removed, right? So basically critics are arguing this is weakening what? This is weakening our democratic debate, right? Now abhi kya hua hai? So this basically debate, this news emerged because speeches were like allegedly expunges, right? Opposition's leaders were like prevented from speaking, है ना? Suspension of MPs was happening, right? This was like increasing in large number, right? So question based on fairness of speaker, कि जब हमारे पास में एक राइट ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है, ठीक है, हम वहां पर बेसिकली उस पार्लियामेंट में बैठे इसलिए सो दैट वी कैन टॉक अबाउट पॉलिटिक्स, वी कैन क्रिटिसाइज अबाउट ऑपोजिशंस. लेकिन अगर हमारी वॉइस को खत्म कर दिया जाएगा तो हाउ विल इट हैपन, ठीक है? तो वो चीज हमारा रोल क्या है, इसीलिए तो हम आए वहां पर, राइट. सो द क्वेश्चन इज रेजिंग ऑन फेयरनेस ऑफ स्पीकर, ठीक है. अगर हम यहाँ पे एथिक्स की बात करें, एथिकल डायमेंशन की बात करें, तो अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट रोल वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, ठीक है. तो यहाँ पर हमारे पास में डिलेमा आता है, दैट इज फ्रीडम वर्सेस रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. Freedom versus responsibility, right? So freedom is what we have rights, responsibility is what duties, है ना? और हर बार every time our constitution talks about the balance between these two. If we are giving you rights, then there are duties also, there are responsibilities also, and that's exactly what ethics also says, कि आपको इन दोनों के दोनों बीच में चीजें मेंटेन करके रखनी है, बैलेंस करके रखनी है, right? I hope this is understood what the news is about. Okay, so this is it for today. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. But there is one question. This is the question for your homework. Please write the answer to it and make sure that you're writing the answer in the chat box. And for the PDF will be attached in the comment section. Till now, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow.